Hello and welcome to Learning and Technology. My name's Frank and I'm glad that you're here. In this video, I'm going to talk about the class notebook in Microsoft Teams. This OneNote notebook will allow us to have a section where I can work as a teacher or an instructor without anybody seeing the content. It allows me to distribute that content out to my students. I can have student notebooks where my students and I can collaborate together with their notebook. And it allows me to have a collaboration space and a content space. All of these spaces serve a purpose, and we can move notebooks between them. It's a very useful tool. We can add audio, video, we can add drawings, we can add text, and we can even dictate to the OneNote notebook. I show you a lot of the features in this video, but there's a lot more that I'll create other videos around. It's a very useful tool. It integrates very nicely with OneNote, the desktop application. It's also portable on your mobile devices. There's a lot to it. So in this video, I'll get you started with the OneNote notebook in a classroom environment, and I think you'll find it interesting. If you do find it interesting, hit the like button, and if you want more tips like this, hit subscribe. Let's go take a look at class notebooks. Here we are again in my astronomy class, my fictitious class that I'm using for demos, and you'll notice that when I set up this class, I set it up as a school, as a classroom, and one of the options was to have a class notebook up here. And so I chose yes to have a class notebook, and then the first time you go in, it will actually not have this here. There'll be a button that says set it up for the first time, and then it will pre-populate it with some of this information. You'll notice there's a welcome to the class notebook. It gives you some description of what the class notebooks are all about. So there's student notebooks where every student will have their own notebook that they can put information into, and you as an instructor can go and take a look at that content. So that's an interaction between you and the student. Then there's a content library, which is a great place where you can share out your handouts and you can share out any information that you want to share with the students in a really structured, organized way. And then there's a collaboration space where everybody can go and add things, and it becomes sort of a mosaic of all of our thoughts, like a big shared book at the front of the class where we put our thoughts. So it's really handy. So once you start in with the notebook, you'll see there's this arrow here, and that'll open up your navigation pane. And you'll see that already all of the students that I have here are already going to be here within this environment. And if I add a new student, they will also get the notebook that'll be assigned to them, become part of the collaboration space, and have access to the content library. The teacher-only space is, of course, just for the teacher. So let's go through. There's a welcome here that talks about it, and there is a frequently asked questions around the notebook with a lot of different resources that you can go through. Microsoft OneNote is a really useful product because it allows us to not only collect different media types, such as I can put text in there, put hyperlinks in there, you can use the drawing function to draw diagrams in there. There's really a lot of value in it. And it also, when you use the application, has an immersive reader. So it can do things like translate text, and it can do things like read text to those who may have any issues around reading. So there's a lot of power behind the tool itself, far more than I can cover in just this one video. But I can make more videos on it as well. So this is just a welcome with some good, useful hyperlinks. Underneath the collaboration space, just grab this here. Again, it'll give me information on using the collaboration space. And you can see how in a previous video, I created a page called Astronomy Videos. And if I go there, you can see that I shared out an astronomy video. And it was easy to do. I just click anywhere in the notebook here. So I'm down below here. And let's say I go over to, what's the best item here. So I'm going to go here, the best telescope for beginners. Let's say for whatever reason I really, really like this. I'm going to share this out. I'm just going to grab this hyperlink. So I copy that hyperlink, pop back into Teams and say, okay, everybody, you should really check out this video. And you have to hit Control V to paste it in. And so I paste it in there, and now that video is part of our collective collaboration space where others can go and they can add their own videos in there. To add another page, you just click on the page down here, and you could put in, let's say I have a page here of, astronomy articles. So maybe we're looking at different astronomy magazines, and I can paste the information in there. Back to the arrow, and that's a collaborative space. Now, there may be some content that I do not want students to change, but I want them to be able to come into it and look at it. So maybe things like a course schedule. So you can see I added a page for the course schedule, and I'll be doing a video shortly on how to use schedules within Microsoft Teams, how we can add that in for a more proper schedule. I've done videos on how to set up reoccurring meetings, which is great for scheduling your classroom and your office hours. But if I go in here and I say, okay, let's create a new page, and let's say there's content library, and I'll call it telescope setup. So maybe I have some telescopes set up, and maybe what I'll do is I'll post in the PDF links to the manuals for all of the telescopes that we use within my astronomy class. So now if you're working with a specific telescope, you can go into this section here. You can't change it, but you can see what telescope setups we have. Now, you can do a lot of other things in here. You can do highlighting. You'll notice that if I go in here, I can also dictate into here. So for example, if I want to go here, I can hit the dictate, and we'll just go here and allow it. So now it's going to access my microphone. I think there are many different ways. I have to go in here, so I have to hit dictate. There are many different ways to get information into the Microsoft OneNote, period, new line. One way that you can do this is by simply talking into the OneNote notebook using the dictate function, period, new line. It does take a little bit of time to get used to this, and you often have to go back and edit it afterwards, but I really can't type as fast as I can talk, and if I talk really, really fast, you'll find that I can actually pick up the information that I'm saying very fast, and I can speak very quickly. Period, new line. Okay, so that was a little bit of a, quick way to get information in there that I can go and clean up. You can also drop this down. I did a whole video on this as well, and choose different languages in there as well. And there are some languages that are in preview. So I only speak English and German. Even though I'm in Canada, I should speak French. My kids speak French. But anyways, there we can go. I can dictate in there. I'm just showing you a few features. There are more. But I want to talk about the content library being information that the students can see, the teacher can edit, but the students cannot edit. If I go into teacher only, this is a very useful one as well because I can start sort of putting together some of my ideas and thoughts. So let's say I want to work on an assignment, and I'll call this, or we'll call it handout. I want to work on a handout. Handout number 1. Just to name it cleverly. And I do some things like I insert some images in here. I do all sorts of things. You can see I can change styles. I can make it bold, step 1. So I can really work on this. And I don't want the students to see this until I'm ready for them to see it. So step 1 is do something. Obviously it's not super exciting here, but you get the idea that I can move boxes around, by the way, so I can actually type anywhere in this environment. So if I want to put something here, I can put hello there, click over here, hello, I can put an image in here if I want to drop an image in here, so you can insert pictures and links and audio. So I can insert audio, for example, if I dictate this. Hey everybody, make sure that you look at this page. And there's an audio recording. It's going to take a little time to come up because of the way that I have my computer set up. But the idea is I can insert an audio recording in there. I could dictate that in there. So you have the record. Oh, I have to stop. So now it's got a lot of me rambling in there. So if I click it, so in this case I have to download a copy because I have to grab it so I can download the audio file. But the idea is that it won't play within this. Grab this here. Here we go. Hey everybody, make sure that you look at this page. And there's an audio. Okay, so there you go. So you can record and pause there. So you can insert audio. We can also draw in here. So if I want to draw something in here, I have some pens. So I can draw something in there. So you see it's a very robust environment for creating a lot of exciting things for your handout. Sometimes audio is nice if you have students that are, maybe have reading issues, that you can actually do an audio clip and provide the instructions using audio. Let's go back here so we can put that in there. And again, I can do handout number 2, right? So we can go back into, take it out of drawing and just go into insert or go back to my home. Once I'm in the home here, oh, I'm still drawing. So what I want to do here is go back to text. We'll make it bold and I'll go handout number 2. I could clean this up, obviously, but and then I could, if I want to go back to insert audio or a link or whatever the case may be. You can also do mathematical symbols and stuff. There's a lot. So if I go here, that's my handout. But you might say, well, wait a minute, what about all these students? Well, by default, they have sections here: homework, resources, class notes, and handouts. And when you first set up the student notebooks, you can add additional sections in there. But what if I have this handout number 1, and I now want to give it to all of my students? What you can do is underneath the teacher's menu, you can go into your class notebook, and notice you can distribute a page or an entire new section. So let's say I want an entire new section for everybody on telescope maintenance. I can go in here and I can put in a whole new section, and it's going to say, what section do you want? And I'm going to call this new section telescope maintenance, and we'll distribute that. And it's now distributing that telescope maintenance section to everybody. And if I go in, and we'll just close this down and reopen it up, grab this here. See how telescope maintenance is now appearing on people's, it'll take a little bit, but you see telescope maintenance will appear. It'll eventually show up with Arthur's as well. Maybe if I refresh it here. So it'll take a little bit for it to go out, but it'll eventually go out to everybody, so that everybody will have a section in there now called telescope maintenance. So that's really handy. And you can go in and distribute new sections out to all of your students so that you can now send that out. The other thing that you can do, so I'll close that down. I can also go through and let's say I want to give them handout number 1. What I can do is I can distribute just that page. And I can put it just to an individual. So let's say, for example, in my teacher notebook, I was doing a performance review on one of my students. I don't want to give that to everybody, obviously. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that this is actually me marking somebody's paper in the teacher notebook, and now I want to give it to Arthur. So I go in here, I'm going to do individual, and I'm going to send it out to Arthur. And so I've selected him, and we're going to say next. And what I'm going to do is, what section do I want to put in there? And you'll notice I want to distribute handout number 1, and I'm going to put that into his handout section. So I'm going to push that out to his section there. And now it's handing it back to him. And now that it's handed it back to him, I can close that down. And if I go into Arthur's here, you'll see underneath his handouts, handout number 1, I've distributed to him. So that's a great way to make sure that I've got that I'm able to distribute individual pages to individuals. I could give this page to everybody. So let's say, for example, underneath the teacher book here, I can go underneath here, handout number 2. I want to give this to everybody. What I could do is distribute it to a group. And I could go in here, the group that I want to distribute it to. I can create a new group, including all of my students. So I'll create a new group. And we'll give it, I'll just call this all students. And we'll choose the students that are going to, so this is handy if you're doing group work as well. You might have group A, group B, and you want to work with them sort of as a group. So I can hand this out. In my case, it's all students. So now I'm going to go in here. I'm going to hand it all to those people in the groups. And then when I go into the all students group, so go here, I'll hand it out to all students, say next. It's going to distribute it. Let's put it into their homework. So handout number 2 is going to go into their homework. It's done. If I go into homework for Arthur, there's handout number 2. Go to Clark Kent into homework, handout number 2. So you can see that I can, from my teacher book, work on things, and then when I'm ready, I can distribute them. You can also copy it to the content library if you want to bring it to the content library. If students are doing work, I can review their work. So let's say, I'll close this down to give me a little more screen real estate, but let's say I want to look at their homework. And I can take a look and see they've got handout number 2, which I gave them. And if I look at handout number 2, I can say, how's Arthur doing on that? And it'll show what he has. If I give you an example of this, let's say Clark goes in to his homework, does handout number 2, and his job on handout number 2 was to draw a circle. We're a pretty easy school. Not the best circle in the world, but Clark's just learning to do some drafting. So now as I go into teacher, right, so I'm back to the teacher only, and what I can do is I can say, okay, let's look at Clark's homework, and there's his circle. And if I go to another student like Diana's, she hasn't done any circles yet. So this can be pretty powerful as well. Now, this video is getting a bit long, so hopefully you're still paying attention and this is all making sense. I'm doing quite a lot all at once. So this shows you the power of working with the notebook, and I'll do some more videos where I show how we can integrate this with Microsoft OneNote and do a few other things. An amazing product, very fascinating, lots of uses for it, and a lot more to talk about when it comes to Microsoft OneNote. But I hope that this video gave you a taste for just some of the possibilities of how you can use it in your classroom environment. I'll see you in some more videos that I create in Microsoft OneNote and on how to use it in a Teams environment, plus a lot of other tips, so subscribe for more of those. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next videos.